Hello guys, we're going to talk about a drama film called Gifted from 2017. A lot of interesting things are waiting for you. In a small town nearby in Florida, 7-year-old Mary lives with her uncle and de facto guardian Frank. Her best and perhaps only friend is her 43-year-old neighbor, Roberta. The day comes when Mary goes to the first grade of school. The girl does not want to do this, because she is sure that she will not learn anything new in a boring school. However, Frank insists on it. Roberta, for some reason, is also very worried about the little girl, believing that it is better for her to stay at home school, but the uncle is convinced that his niece should socialize with her peers. At school, Mary meets her classmates and a kind teacher, Bonnie, who gives her students easy math examples. Mary says that it is too easy. Then the teacher gives the cheeky first grader more and more difficult problems, up to multiplying 3-digit numbers. After a few moments, the girl gives the answer, and Bonnie, shocked, checks it on her calculator. Mary completely surprises the teacher by immediately naming the square root of the resulting number. After the first day of school, Bonnie meets Frank and claims that his niece is a genius. However, the man denies this, claiming that Mary has only mastered the method of calculating complex examples in her mind. 7 years ago, Diana, Mary's mother and Frank's sister, who was a promising mathematician, devoted her life to solving one of the unsolved problems of the millennium. But in the end, she suddenly ended her life. Only his brother agreed to take custody of his niece, who was only 6 months old at the time, because there was no one else to take care of her. Frank resigned from his position as a college professor and moved with Mary to a small town where he began repairing boats to support himself and the girl. At first, it was hard for him to cope with the baby alone, but over time he came to love her as if she were his own daughter. They spent a lot of time together. The uncle allowed the girl to take in a red, one-eyed cat they named Fred. Despite her initial rejection of her peers and boredom with school, Mary begins to bond with the other children. She brings the cat to class and tells her classmates about her favorite animal. Despite Frank's words, Bonnie is sure that Mary is an unusual child. The teacher gives the girl a difficult math test for high school students, which she solves without a single mistake, confirming the woman's guess. On another day, when Mary is riding with the children on the school bus, a bully trips Justin, and he breaks his work for the competition. The students laugh at the loser, and only Mary defends her classmate and then breaks the bully's nose with a book. The school principal calls the girl and her uncle in, and after reprimanding her for attacking a classmate, he suddenly offers to transfer Mary to an academy for gifted children after hearing from Bonnie about her talents. However, Frank categorically refuses, wanting his niece to grow up to be a decent person. Bonnie, not understanding Frank's motives, searches for information about the family on the internet and learns that Mary's mother has committed suicide. The teacher goes to a bar where she meets Frank and asks him about his niece. The man tells her about the tragic death of his sister, who was very depressed in the last days of her life. He was busy with his own problems and did not pay attention to this. Mary's own father ran away cowardly, and her grandmother turned her back on her granddaughter. So Frank had to take custody of the girl and completely change his life, because Diana really wanted her daughter to have a normal childhood. The school principal informs Evelyn that her genius granddaughter's talent will never be revealed in a regular school. Upon learning that Mary has inherited her mother's genius, the grandmother immediately comes to Frank's house. Evelyn, who has been involved in math all her life, gives her granddaughter a laptop with a rare math book and learns about the girl's love for solving complex problems. Frank is tense when he sees how much Mary is interested in scientific work. Evelyn tells her son that she will not go anywhere without her granddaughter, but Frank is not going to give the girl away. The man reminds his mother of Diana's death and asks her to give Mary a chance not to repeat her fate. Evelyn sharply states that Diana was weak, and that is why she gave up, ending her life. The grandmother realizes that she cannot convince Frank, so she threatens to sue and leaves. Mary is immersed in math, forgetting everything else. Because of this, Frank has to drag his niece out for a walk in the fresh air. Frank comes to the first court hearing with his lawyer Greg, as he cannot afford an expensive defense attorney. At the same time, Evelyn hires Aubrey, a successful and highly paid lawyer. Aubrey claims that Frank illegally adopted Mary and that her living conditions leave much to be desired. Greg replies that it was his late sister's wish to adopt the girl and parries the other arguments of the opposing side. The court takes Frank's side, allowing Evelyn to visit her granddaughter from time to time. Mary spends the evening with Roberta, and Frank meets Bonnie at a bar. After a few drinks, the couple goes home to Frank's place, and in the morning, Bonnie feels very uncomfortable when she meets Mary. Soon after, Evelyn takes Mary to her home in Boston for a few days. The grandmother shows the girl pictures of her mother and tells her how Diana devoted her life to solving a complex math problem. Evelyn brings her granddaughter to Boston University and introduces her to a respected professor who offers the girl to solve a complex equation to assess her abilities. But Mary stares at the board in silence and the professor shakes his head in denial, not noticing the girl's hidden potential. When Evelyn and Mary go outside, the girl says that there was a mistake in the equation on the board, so it could not be solved. The grandmother brings her granddaughter back to the classroom, where she easily finds the solution to the problem, impressing everyone present. 2 days later, Evelyn brings Mary home, where the girl secretly tells Frank that she doesn't want to live with her grandmother because she behaves like a real boss. At the second court hearing, Evelyn brings Bradley, Mary's biological father, who claims that he has been searching for his daughter for several years without success. However, Greg proves that Bradley doesn't even know his own daughter's full name, and it was very easy to find Mary through several internet posts that appeared 5 years ago. The judge again takes Frank's side, because it is obvious that Bradley is not interested in his daughter's fate. Mary, learning that her own father does not care about her fate, cannot hold back her tears. To support his niece, Frank brings the girl to the hospital, where she is delighted to see the joy of the families who are informed of the birth of a child. Mary is overjoyed and dances with the happy people. Frank says that when she was born, their whole family was also overwhelmed with joy. At the third court hearing, Greg concludes that Diana died because of her oppressive mother, who forced her to devote her entire life to math. Evelyn loses her temper and denies that she had anything to do with her daughter's death. She continues to insist that a math miracle is 1 in a billion, so Mary needs to be specially trained for a life dedicated to math, as was the case with Diana. Aubrey blames Frank for the lack of a steady job, proper housing, and health insurance for her niece, which her grandmother can provide. In addition, Evelyn's lawyer informs the judge that Frank has been arrested several times for fighting. The judge then postpones making a final decision. Frank is worried that the court may side with Evelyn and he will lose Mary completely. Frank, with a pained heart, agrees to a compromise proposed by his lawyer Greg. His niece will live in a foster home that they will agree on together with her grandmother and attend a private school that Evelyn will invite her to. Frank will have the right to scheduled visits, and Mary will be able to decide where she wants to live after she reaches the age of 12. The chosen foster family lives half an hour away from Frank. The uncle brings Mary to her foster parents, Claire and Kevin, and explains to them how best to build a relationship with the girl. He convinces them to get a cat so that his niece won't be lonely. On the day of parting, Mary cries and begs her uncle not to give her to strangers. Frank tries to explain that they will be able to see each other, but the girl thinks he has betrayed her. The man leaves, barely able to hold back his tears. Frank works day and night to keep himself from getting depressed. On the appointed day, he comes to the girl's guardian's house, but Kevin claims that Mary does not want to see him. Upset, Frank leaves a gift for his niece and leaves. At home, he cannot find a place for himself, realizing that he has lost the most precious person in his life. Bonnie unexpectedly finds out that Fred, a one-legged cat, has been taken to a shelter for stray animals and tells Frank about it. The man picks Fred up from the shelter and brings him home. Frank realizes that the cat was given to the shelter because of Evelyn, who is severely allergic to cats. Frank rushes to the house of the girl's guardians, where they confess that Evelyn is looking after Mary's studies at the guest house. The man apologizes to his niece and says that he made a huge mistake by putting her in the wrong hands. He admits that he is sure Diana did solve the problem of this equation, but she set a condition that her work be published only after her mother's death. Frank offers Evelyn to exchange custody of Mary for a unique manuscript with Diana's solution. The woman does not hesitate to agree, as her daughter's writings are the meaning of her life. Frank adds that Diana found the solution to the problem shortly before her death, after which she lost the meaning of life and decided to leave our world. Frank and Mary walk home together. Evelyn, left with the precious manuscript, realizes how terrible a mother and grandmother she was. Frank and Mary return to their normal lives. Her uncle agrees to send the girl to a math course for students at the Science Academy, but at the same time, Mary continues to go to a regular school and spends a lot of time with her uncle.